The galaxy did not begin with light, it began with a debt. Long before humanity took its first trembling steps into the cosmic void, a war raged between distant civilizations, so ancient their names were carried only in starlight and ruins. Those who survived spoke of a single moment when a forgotten race, the Etherian, saved a small blue planet from annihilation. They arrived in silence, shields shimmering like angelic wings, and intercepted a world-killer asteroid destined for Earth's oceans. They did not wait for thanks. They did not ask for worship, they left no message behind, only a memory, a favor owed. Humans forgot the details over millennia. But deep in their collective soul, a seed was planted. An instinct stronger than fear, sharper than ambition, an instinct to return what was given. To repay kindness, even across eons. When humanity finally rose into the interstellar age, that ancient seed awakened. And the universe was not ready for what it would become. The story begins in the Emberfall Nebula, on the fractured world of Vesra 9. A dying planet scorched by red storms, shattered into islands of floating stone and empty cities. The Vesrans, once a proud species, were hunted and pushed to extinction by the merciless Vorn Dominion, an empire that saw compassion as weakness and mercy as treason. What the Vorn never understood was humanity's inconvenient tendency to run toward the fire instead of away from it. A single human vessel, the Talon's Grace, picked up a distress signal drifting between broken moons. A faint voice. A flicker of life. It was all they needed. They descended through storms that could tear ships apart, landing on a cliff of obsidian rock where the last Vesrans huddled in fear. Children with trembling luminous eyes. Elders who had not seen sunlight in years. Their species had saved humans once, unknowingly, countless ages ago. And now, the favor demanded completion. Humans formed a shield around them. Humans stood where no one else would. The Vorn arrived within hours. Their cruisers carved through the nebula like fanged shadows. Their soldiers marched across the broken plains, armored in chrome and blood. They found humans standing in their way, small sparks of flesh and defiance against a storm of steel. The Dominion commander laughed when he saw them. He laughed until the sky ripped open. What descended from orbit was not an army, it was humanity's promise. Fleet after fleet, engines burning sapphire trails, emerged from hyperspace. Not for conquest. Not for territory. But for the ancient favor whispered in cosmic memory. Humanity surrounded Vesra 9 like a wall of fire. The first battle shook the nebula so violently that nearby star clusters recorded the echoes. Humans fought with precision, fury, and something the Vorn had no word for, loyalty to a debt older than their species' existence. Every ship that fell was honored. Every soldier who died carried the legacy of a world saved by unknown hands. The Vorn did not understand why the humans fought with such madness. Why they refused to retreat. Why they bled for a species not their own, but the Vesrans understood. The Etherian had whispered the truth to their ancestors long ago. Mankind never forgets a favor. As the war spread across systems, something changed. Other species watched in awe. They had known humanity was unpredictable, brilliant, dangerous, but not like this. They had not seen the fire beneath their ribs. The ancient vow burned into their history. Human engineers built mobile refuges on shattered asteroids. Human pilots flew through storms of plasma to pull lone Vesran survivors from collapsing cities. Human doctors worked without rest, whispering comfort in languages they had only just learned. The Vorn retaliated with megastructures, planetary sieges, gravitational weapons that could tear moons apart. Yet for every system they pressured, humanity responded with 3 more fleets. For every Vesran life threatened, 10,000 humans rose to shield it. Whispers grew across the galaxy, stories of human soldiers standing alone on ridges of molten glass, stories of human captains who detonated their own ships to save evacuees, stories of human children offering food to alien refugees with tear-filled eyes. Humanity became a storm, fearless, chaotic, righteous. The Vorn had awakened something they didn't understand. Something unstoppable. The final battle came at the Throne Forge, where the Dominion kept its command fortress. A world of jagged metal continents, powered by cores hotter than suns. The Vorn believed it impenetrable, unbreakable, eternal. They were wrong. Human forces arrived in silence. Entire constellations dimmed as their ships eclipsed the light. They didn't fire. They descended slowly, as if delivering a verdict. When the Vorn unleashed their full weapon array, humanity answered, not with destruction, but with memory. They projected a single image across the Dominion sky. The Etherean, the moment they saved Earth, the ancient kindness that had brought all of this into motion, and every human ship broadcast the same message, translated into the Dominion's own tongue: we repay what we are given. The battle began like thunder, planets trembled as weapons shattered continents, skies burned in colors never seen by mortal eyes, and through it all, humanity advanced, step by step, ship by ship, heart by heart. It wasn't victory they sought, it was balance, it was justice, it was the completion of a promise whispered at the dawn of their species. When the Dominion fortress finally fell, its towers collapsing like dying stars, the galaxy fell silent. The war was over. The Vesrans were safe. The ancient favor was repaid, but something else happened, something the human commanders had not expected. The Etherean returned. They emerged from folds in spacetime, not as conquerors or saviors, but as quiet witnesses. Their forms were luminous, like beings carved from nebulae. For a moment, every species held its breath. The Etherean bowed to humanity, not for victory, not for strength, but for loyalty, for memory, for the unbroken chain that connected past to present. Then they vanished again, leaving behind a single star forged of living light. A reminder of the debt repaid, and the bond renewed. Centuries later, children across the galaxy would learn the story in hushed whispers. How mankind crossed systems to repay a kindness forgotten by all but the stars. How they shook worlds not with tyranny, but with gratitude, and how humanity became a legend whispered with awe, respect, and fear, because in a universe built on power, there was one truth no empire could erase: mankind never forgets a favor, and when humanity chooses to repay, their payback can shake worlds. And so, the stars learned to fear the sound of a human heartbeat. The war that would one day shake worlds did not begin with fleets or fire, but with a single human breath in the cold dark of an alien prison. The cell was a cage of humming energy, thin as glass and twice as cruel, designed by the Vexor Dominion to extinguish defiance. But humans were not known for extinguishing. They were known for remembering. Captain Alara Miles lay on the metallic floor, blood drying along her jawline, her heartbeat stubborn and steady. The Vexor had taken her crew. They believed they had taken her will. What they didn't understand was that humanity carried its anger differently, quietly, like embers kept under ash, waiting for the right breath of wind. Outside her cell, the Dominion station drifted like a black thorn above a dying star. Patrol drones floated past with mechanical indifference. The air tasted of ozone and cruelty. But somewhere deep in the labyrinth of corridors, something unexpected stirred, a memory older than any of the Vexor realized. It belonged to a being once forgotten, on the far side of the galaxy. In a peaceful valley carved beneath copper skies, the small village of Rithos awoke to a trembling in the ground. Children huddled near the fire pits as their elders murmured warnings. The tremor was not natural, it came from something vast rising from the deep. A being of ancient design and impossible patience, a creature humanity had once saved during a forgotten expedition long before the Dominion's rise. Its memory was long. Its loyalty was longer. It remembered a human hand once pressed against its wounded hide. It remembered a voice whispering comfort even as storms raged around them. And when the winds shifted in a way that spoke of violence crossing the stars. The ancient guardian lifted its head and felt the aching pull of a promise made ages ago. Mankind never forgets a favor, but humans were not the only ones who honored debts. Back on the Dominion station, Alara pushed herself to her feet and stared at the shimmering field of her prison. Pain rippled down her spine. She welcomed it. Pain meant she was alive. Pain meant she still had a chance. Through the echoes of distant engines and the crackling of energy barriers, her thoughts drifted to her crew, her family. Somewhere, they were suffering, somewhere, they needed her, and somewhere, the stars themselves were beginning to shift. The Dominion believed they had crushed humanity's defiance. They had no idea they had planted a seed instead. A slow-burning resolve unfurled in Alara's chest, steadier than fear, heavier than grief. The kind that did not roar, but promised it would. She reached out and pressed her hand against the energy barrier. It hissed and burned against her skin. She didn't flinch. No one threatens humanity and walks away unscathed. Not anymore. Far beyond the station, hyperspace rippled. Something immense was moving. Something that should not have awakened, something coming for her, and for the first time since her capture, Alara Miles allowed herself the smallest, sharpest smile, because favors, once owed to humans, were paid back with interest. And the galaxy was about to learn what that truly meant. The Dominion station lurched sideways as if swatted by an invisible hand. Alarms shrieked through the corridors. Sparks burst from overhead conduits, showering guards in arcs of electric light. Alara braced against the trembling floor, her eyes fixed on the window as the shadow outside shifted, slowly, purposefully, like a living continent turning its gaze. The creature's silhouette rippled across starlight, so massive it swallowed constellations. Its scales shimmered like liquid metal. Its eyes glowed with ancient intelligence, reflecting memories far older than the Dominion itself. It drifted close to the station, wings unfurling in silence. Their span stretching wider than entire frigates, it had once been broken, bleeding, hunted. Humans had stood beside it then, now it stood for them. Inside the station, panic ignited, Dominion captains barked commands, fire teams scrambled toward gun ports, weapons glowed with charged plasma. The entire fortress shifted its posture from arrogant control to primal desperation. Alara pressed her palm to the barrier again. The energy stung her, but she held steady, letting the rhythmic pulse of the creature's presence sink into her bones. She could almost hear it, an echo of the old valley winds, the low rumble of breath beside campfires where her team had once tended its wounds. A bond forged in fear, sealed in kindness, remembered in silence. The station-wide broadcast crackled to life, Vexor voices grinding through the speakers, ordering heavy cannons online. They screamed for firing clearance. They screamed not like conquerors, but like animals trapped beneath a descending mountain. Outside, the creature stirred, its wings curled inward, its body glowed with a deep internal light. The void itself seemed to bend around it, and then it struck, not with claws or fangs, but with a roar, soundless in space, yet powerful enough to vibrate through the hull and into Alara's ribs. Shock waves rippled outward, rippling the very fabric of the station's shields. Windows spiderwebbed. Energy barriers flickered. Several Dominion gunships docked along the outer ring were simply peeled away, tumbling into the abyss like broken toys. The power surge hit the prison deck. Alara felt the barrier around her cell sputter, crackle. Then collapse in a flash of dying light. For a moment, she stood frozen, tasting freedom like oxygen after drowning. The lights failed completely. Only the emergency glows cast dim red bands along the corridor. Guards scrambled blindly, their armored feet clanking in frantic disorder. Alara moved like a shadow, slipping from the cell and grabbing the fallen baton from a stunned officer. She breathed once, steady, grounding herself. She was still battered. Still hurting. Still human, and that was enough. The creature outside pressed closer, its enormous eye aligning with the station viewports. It wasn't looking at the Vexor, it was looking at her. Recognition passed between them like an old secret. Inside the station, power conduits overloaded, bursting like sparks from a forge. The Dominion's arrogance was collapsing under the weight of an ancient debt being repaid with terrifying sincerity. Alara tightened her grip on the baton. She had a crew to save, a debt of her own to return, and a guardian at her back who would tear apart the heavens to see her safe. The galaxy had underestimated humanity once again. And now it would learn that kindness, when returned by humans, carried the force of a supernova. Alara moved through the darkened corridor with the quiet determination of someone who had long ago made peace with danger. Steam hissed from ruptured vents. Emergency lights pulsed like a failing heartbeat. Dominion guards staggered in the chaos, shouting into useless comms as she slipped past them in the shadows, every footstep deliberate, every breath measured. The creature's second impact against the station shuddered through the walls like a slow, rolling earthquake. Ceiling panels snapped loose. Sparks fell like burning snowfall. Somewhere below, a reactor turbine screeched against its housing. The sound warped with panic. The Vexor didn't understand what hunted them. Elara didn't need them to. She just needed to reach her crew. She paused beside a shattered viewport. A jagged tear in the hull plating offered a panoramic glimpse of the Leviathan outside. Its wings unfurled again, each feather-like plate reflecting starlight as if capturing the very glow of the cosmos. It was beautiful in a terrifying way, majestic, ancient, a living reminder that humanity's legacy stretched far beyond the small blue world they called home, and hovering on its back, woven into the ridges of its spine, were smaller shapes, flyers. Grown, armored, patrolling its flanks like guardian spirits. She remembered coaxing those tiny creatures out of their eggs years ago, barely the size of her palm. Now, they soared through space like trained falcons, spiraling around the station with purpose. They had come too. The furious screech of plasma rifles snapped her back. 3 Dominion soldiers rounded the corner, eyes reflecting red emergency light. They fired. Elara dove behind a broken conduit, heat searing past her cheek. She grabbed the baton and smashed it into the emergency panel beside her. The door next to her slammed down, blocking the soldiers' advance. She didn't wait to see if they could cut through it. She sprinted down the next corridor, lungs burning, stumbling slightly where her ribs protested the violence. But she pressed on. Her crew was being held in the central research bay, converted into a torture ward. Dominion protocol was cruel by design. And Eric, her first officer, would not last long under their interrogators. He had the stubborn loyalty of a man who would die before betraying others. She couldn't let that happen. She wouldn't. As she neared the bay, the walls trembled again. A low rumble, no longer random chaos, but controlled. Intentional. The creature outside was no longer just attacking, it was searching, calling to her, guiding her like a lighthouse carved out of living flesh. The doors to the research bay loomed ahead, reinforced with Dominion sigil locks. Behind them, she heard muffled voices, her crew, restrained. Groans of pain. Metal restraints clinking, and beneath that, footsteps approaching. Elara stepped back into the shadows just as a Dominion commander turned the corner, tall and armored, carrying a shock rod pulsing with cruel blue light. His frills flared with confidence. That confidence evaporated when the station shook so violently that the walls bowed inward. Every light went dark. A single, massive silhouette eclipsed all stars beyond the viewports. The creature pressed its talon, the size of a shuttle, against the hull, and the metal screamed. The Dominion commander staggered. Elara did not. She lunged, her baton cracked against his throat. His weapon clattered to the floor. He swung a clawed hand. She dodged, grabbed his arm, and wrenched it backward with brutal efficiency. He fell, gasping. She seized his sigil key and slammed it onto the research bay lock. The doors hissed open, cold air spilled out, tinged with antiseptic and fear. Inside, her crew looked up, bleeding, restrained, but alive. Eric blinked, disbelief softening the pain carved into his features. Elara stepped inside, jaw tight, eyes fierce. The creature outside roared without sound, its shadow covering the bay in darkness and promise. Humanity had come for its own, and the galaxy was beginning to tremble. The restraints holding her crew snapped apart one by one as Elara tore through the chamber with a fury sharpened by hours of captivity and years of command. Her hands moved quickly, unlocking cuffs, disabling monitors, pulling 4 lines from trembling arms. The faint hum of failing power systems echoed overhead like a dying storm. Eric tried to stand, but his knees nearly buckled. Elara caught him by the shoulder, steadying him as the others gathered, bruised and bloodied yet burning with the same stubborn fire she carried. The station trembled again. Harder. A deep, bone-low vibration that made the ceiling dust fall in drifting sheets. The creature outside moved closer, its immense weight shifting against the hull like a mountain carving its own path through the cosmos. For a moment, all of them felt it, even through steel walls. Even with fear pressing into their lungs, something ancient, something loyal, something that had crossed the void for them. The crew stared toward the viewport as a living horizon of shimmering scales drifted past, eclipsing every star. Some gasped. Some whispered prayers. Some simply stared, trying to comprehend the impossible sight. Eric's voice cracked with awe as he stood straighter. "Captain. That thing, it came for us." Ilara didn't look away from the window. "It remembers." The crew moved into motion with newfound resolve. Exhausted bodies straightened. Wounds stopped mattering. Pain became irrelevant, not erased, but swallowed by a deeper instinct. Humans don't leave their own behind. Not on the ground, not in orbit, not in the jaws of the Dominion. The doors behind them buckled, metal bowing inward as Dominion forces regrouped for a counterattack. Ilara's crew scavenged weapons from fallen captors, shock rods, plasma pistols, even serrated Vexor gauntlets repurposed as blades. The corridor lights flickered violently, then died. Total darkness swallowed the station. For a heartbeat, only breathing and distant alarms filled the void. Then a faint blue glow seeped through the room as the creature outside pulsed with bioluminescent light. Its wings spread across the void, luminous scales shimmering like a constellation reborn. The glow filtered through every viewport and seam in the metal. Bathing the crew in ghostly radiance, a living star was escorting them. Ilara turned to her crew, shadows painting sharp lines across her face. "We're getting to the hangar." In one piece. A massive impact rattled the deck, closer than before. The Dominion commander's voice crackled through broken speakers, filled with panic and denial. He ordered all plasma cannons to focus fire on the creature. Outside, the first barrage struck. The creature didn't flinch. It let the energy wash over its armored hide like rain against stone. The small flyers circling its wings darted through the blasts, slicing apart turrets with surgical precision. Every cannon silenced sent another tremor through the station. Every destroyed system plunging the Dominion deeper into chaos. Ilara and her crew ran, down collapsing corridors, through sparking maintenance tunnels, across tilting walkways where gravity flickered like a damaged memory. Dominion guards tried to intercept them, but humans who had tasted freedom again were not easily stopped. Eric moved with renewed fire, striking with brutal clarity. The medic, Lyra, wielded a shock rod like a spear. Two engineers turned heavy tools into blunt weapons. Every confrontation was short, decisive, and fueled by something no Dominion soldier understood. Humanity fights hardest when fighting for each other. The hangar was close now. She could hear the faint echo of atmospheric shields struggling to stay online. She could feel the creature's presence hovering like a guardian moon just beyond the outer hull. As they turned down the final corridor, the station trembled with a violent quake that knocked several crew to their knees. A deep, resonant sound vibrated through the floor. An inhuman growl carried through metal, a warning so ancient the Vexor would have prayed had they believed in anything but domination. It was telling them, "Hurt these humans, and you answer to me." Ilara rose slowly, breath steady despite the storm around her. The Dominion thought humanity was weak. They thought kindness was a flaw. They thought mercy was leverage. They were about to learn how wrong they were. With her crew behind her, the hangar ahead, and a Titan in the stars watching over them, Ilara pushed forward, ready to unleash a storm that the galaxy would never, ever forget. The hangar doors loomed ahead, towering slabs of armored alloy, shuddering under the strain of a station tearing itself apart. Smoke curled from ruptured conduits. Atmospheric alarms wailed in glitching waves. The Dominion had begun emergency lockdown, but the creature outside pressed its colossal weight against the hull again, warping metal with a slow, merciless grinding. Ilara and her crew reached the final catwalk overlooking the hangar floor. Below them, Dominion soldiers scrambled around like insects. Barking orders, forming desperate firing lines, dragging out heavy artillery too large and too slow to matter. Eric leaned over the railing, eyes widening as a chunk of hull peeled inward near the hangar ceiling, folding like paper under the creature's unseen pressure. "Captain." It's breaking in. Ilara's voice was low, steady, unshakable. It's breaking them. A sudden boom shook the platform. A swarm of small flyers, fully grown, armored in iridescent plates, burst through a crack in the hull. They moved with hypnotic precision, diving and weaving as if dancing through gravity itself. Each one unleashed targeted beams of pale energy, slicing through Dominion turrets with surgical grace. The Dominion soldiers reeled back, firing wildly. Their plasma bolts ricocheted off the flyers' hardened scales, harmless as sparks against storms. The hangar lights flickered to darkness. Then came the glow, the entire bay washed in deep blue light as the creature outside pressed its titanic head into the widening rupture. Its luminous eyes swept the room like twin suns. Its breath, misting in the thin atmosphere, rolled across the hangar like a cold tide. The Dominion screamed, but the creature wasn't here for them. Ilara and her crew descended the metal staircase, boots clanging in unison. Their path cleared itself, every Dominion soldier too terrified to stand in the face of a guardian whose presence felt like the weight of a myth made real. The flyers circled around the humans protectively, forming a moving shield of wings and luminous scales. One of them, the largest, drifted close to Ilara, its eyes reflecting a memory of her younger self, soothing it with whispered encouragement. It chirped softly. She touched its snout with trembling fingers. "Good to see you too," she breathed. A groaning shriek tore through the bay as the creature outside finally forced the hull apart entirely. The hangar became a cavern open to the stars. Air roared outward, stripping supply crates and Dominion bodies into the void, but the flyers generated a shimmering energy field around the humans, shielding them from decompression. Ilara stared into the starlit breach. Beyond it, the creature extended one massive, armored wing like a bridge, stable, glowing, inviting. "A path home, move," she commanded. Her crew sprinted across the fractured hangar floor, debris and weapon fire spinning harmlessly away from their shield. The flyers hovered overhead, deflecting falling steel and intercepting stray bolts. One Dominion commander, one of the highest ranking, his armor engraved with the Dominion's cruel sigils, staggered to his feet and leveled a massive plasma cannon at them. Its glow built into a lethal core. The creature outside saw it. A soundless roar shook the hangar, vibrating bone and metal alike. The commander froze, not in fear, but pinned by invisible force. The air rippled around him as if space itself rejected his intent. Then he was gone, hurled into the void by a single swipe of telekinetic will older than his empire. Ilara and her crew reached the edge of the hangar and stepped onto the creature's outstretched wing. The surface felt warm under their boots, scales shifting to give them stable footing. As soon as they were aboard, the flyers encircled them like sentinels, guiding them toward the creature's back where footholds formed from shifting plates. The station shuddered behind them, reactors screaming. The Dominion was losing control of its own fortress. Fires crawled along corridors. Explosions rippled like dying breaths. The creature pulled away from the hangar, wings unfurling with a cosmic grace. Ilara turned back one last time. She saw the station, once a symbol of Dominion dominance, collapse inward as its core overloaded. She saw the panic of soldiers who had never believed anything could strike fear into their empire. She saw the flames, the darkness, the final implosion. And then she saw nothing at all. The creature carried them away from the explosion, shielding them with its wings as a shockwave rippled through space like a silent scream. When the glow faded, the shattered remains of the Dominion station drifted like ash on cosmic winds. Eric exhaled shakily. "Captain, we're alive." Ilara looked out across the stars, wind from the creature's movement brushing her hair like an old friend's touch. "We are," she whispered. "But we're not done." The creature rumbled beneath them, a sound of agreement and promise. For the first time since her capture, Ilara felt something steady and bright settle in her chest. Hope, vengeance, purpose. Humanity never forgets a favor, and sometimes, that favor becomes a force the galaxy can't begin to understand.